Hi, our last presentation today is Orexo, a company focused on pharmaceuticals and digital therapies for patients suffering from mental illness or substance use disorders. With us, we have here Nikolaj Sørensen. Nikolaj, the CEO, and Nikolaj, the word is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting us. So I'm going to present Orexo, and thank you for the introduction. We are a company who's probably at the most exciting time of the company's history. So many crossroads ahead of us and so many opportunities that we're watching at that we have an unparalleled situation for the company ever. The basis for that is our three different business areas. We have the US pharmaceuticals, where we are promoting our product Zubsolv for treatment of opioid use disorder. I will come back to that later. We have our pipeline, where we are now have a completely new technology platform that we're branded Amorphox, which is based on an amorphous technology, which is opening up a complete new avenues for drug delivery technologies, not only for smaller molecules, but also larger molecules like biologics, vaccines, and the similar. I'll come back to that again. And then we have a new leg for Orexo, is digital therapies, which is linking very tightly into our US pharma business, where our digital therapies consist of an opioid use disorder treatment, but we've then also added on a treatment for alcohol misuse and for depression treatment. So, moving into the US pharma, our main product is Zubsolv for treatment of opioid use disorder. Zubsolv is a buprenorphine naloxone product. It's been marketed since 2013 in the US. It's quite similar in the clinical profile to other brands in the market, for example, a product called Suboxone, but we have some distinct advantages of Zubsolv. We have a higher bioavailability, which makes the tablet much smaller. It also results in a faster dissolve time, a better taste, as the active ingredients normally have a worse taste, and we have the broadest dosage range of any products in the market. As said, we're commercializing this with our own organization in the US since 2013, and we're right now launching in Europe together with our partner, Aktier Healthcare. When we look at the area we're working at, which is opioid use disorder, this is probably in the shadow of COVID-19 the worst healthcare problem in the US. We have more than 10 million people in the US are misusing opioids. We have 4 million who are misusing so much opioids that they would classify for a treatment. And we have 1.4 million patients who are in treatment. But what is worth noting is the number of people dying from opioid disorder in the US is skyrocketing, unfortunately, during COVID. It was 80,000 people per year before COVID, and we have now surpassed 107,000 people have died in 2021 from overdoses in the US, where the predominant reason for that is the opioid called fentanyl, which is a very potent opioid, more than 50 times more potent than heroin, for example. So this is the market that we're acting in, a market which is completely underserved, where we see a lot of issues patients needing pharmaceutical treatment, but even more patients needing a behavioral treatment for how to manage their addiction and come out and live a more normal life. The product that we have been promoting since 2013 is Zubsolv, as I said. It has generated more than 4 billion Swedish krona in revenues for the company. The last 12 months, the revenues was 535 million the last 12 months from Q1. What is interesting with Zubsolv is that while we've had a period of decline following some entry of generic competitors on Suboxone in 2019, we saw that several of the insurance companies in the US were opening up for competition. That was good for some because we increased our market access in some areas of the US, but we also lost some exclusive contracts where we had been the only product that was reimbursed, for example, from the largest insurance company in the US, United Health Group. That happened in 2019, and we have kind of seen a little fading sales during the last few years, but actually now in Q1 we reported an increase, and looking at the data right now, it's quite stable in the US. What will help us moving forward is that on this market access improvements, we just added on New York State, which is the second largest payers in the US. That's a gross turnover of $180 million, and we have never been reimbursed in New York State before. And take the New York State, which under the Medicaid umbrella, our market share was about 0.5%. But if you look at the part in New York State where we have been reimbursed, which is in the commercial sector, our market share is more than 10%. So this, we think, is a fantastic growth opportunity in the year from now on. If you look at this market, so the market has been growing quite fast, and there's no doubt that the need for treatment is growing faster right now after COVID than we have ever seen before. However, the actual treatment has been flattening out during the COVID pandemic. One of the main reasons for that is lack of access to physicians. But as we see the impact from COVID-19 diminish, we also expect that we will see more patients having access to healthcare. And with that, we'll see more patients who will actually get treated, which of course will be a growth driver for Zubsolv. And also for Orexo, we have had a lot of restrictions for our field force has not been able to meet the physicians as we're used to for the last 2 years. And we now see that starting to normalize, even though we're not there yet. The other thing that will help this market and also our digital therapy for opioid use disorder is there's so much going on to address the opioid epidemic. We see a lot of activities both on a federal level, on a state level, and we see a massive money inflow coming into the sector because of these opioid litigations that are ongoing in the US right now against pharmacy chains, against pharmaceutical companies who agree to pay large damages which are earmarked to improve treatment of opioid dependence. We are one of the few companies who have a comprehensive offering in opioid use disorder. And of course, this money inflow is something that we expect will help us in the future. Moving to our headquarter pipeline. Today, we have a pipeline of 3 revenue-generating products. We have Zubsolv, as I just talked about. We also have Abstral and Edluar, which are right now relatively small in the context of Orexo. Abstral has been a very successful product, but lost exclusivity in the US and the EU in 2019. But we are still getting some good royalties from Abstral. More exciting is our platform, which is based on Amorphox. And Amorphox right now, we deliver in a nasal spray, even though we can see a much broader applications of Amorphox. And the first project is OX124, which is for opioid use disorder, opioid overdose. And the design criteria for OX124 was to design something that is stronger and faster acting than the rescue medications available today. Because we see that the death caused by fentanyl require a stronger reversal treatment of the opioid than what exists today. And we have data on OX124 from 2 clinical trials, which is showing that OX124 is more potent and powerful than the existing alternatives. OX125 is kind of the same product, but with a different API. So that one we have right now put a little on wait because we are finalizing OX124 during this autumn for filing in the US. On top of that, we also have OX640, which is probably the most exciting product in the company because it's something where we have an ability to become the first nasal spray in the market and where we're really addressing some patient needs. And I'll come back to that in a few slides. OX124, OX125, overdose rescue medications. It's something, as I said, the number of people overdosing have reached an all-time high right now. We are on good track to file late this year. That would mean we'll have an approval in place next year for OX124. And as I said, we have a clinically differentiated product to the market leader today. So we have a product that has shown in a head-to-head comparison with the market leader today to have a faster and more powerful effect. OX640, which I actually think is probably the most exciting opportunity in Orexo because of the size of the market. This is an epinephrine product. Today, epinephrine is used for allergic shock. So when you get an allergic shock, then you take the EpiPen and you push it based on an auto-injector into your legs, and that will help you to reverse the allergic shock. Today, that is an auto-injector. The problem with EpiPen is, first of all, it's a needle, it's an auto-injector. Secondly, it has a very poor stability, so the shelf life is very short on this. So when you need it, you can't be sure that it works. In particular, if you're taking it with you outside, because it's supposed to be stored under constant temperatures in a room temperature. So if you take it to the beach, for example, you will basically have to throw it out when you come home, because if it has been in the backpack on the beach, I'm pretty sure that the temperature would be higher than room temperature. And here we have our first clinical trial expected during the summer. We have some good expectations that that will be positive because we have tested this technology with 2 other APIs with success. And if we have that, we could be the first nasal alternative to the auto-injectors. And if you look at the naloxone market, when we had nasal sprays in the naloxone market, it completely took over the market from the auto-injectors. And there's no reason why OX640 cannot do the same in the $2 billion market that we're seeing for epinephrine. And if we look at the Amorphox, what is it that makes it so unique? This is actually data that we have on Amorphox on the slide to the left. It's from naloxone, where we compare to the market-leading nasal alternative today. And as you can see, it has a much higher and superior pharmacokinetic profile. So it's more bioavailable, it's faster, and it's more powerful acting. What's even more notable is that with the stability data we have is that we basically see no degradation of the product throughout even high temperatures, high humidity, sunlight. We have a product that has shown to be stable across multiple different APIs, and we have patent protections for the next 20 years at least. And we have several more patents than the 3 that have been granted in process right now. And we have tested this across a range of different APIs. And these are just some examples where you can see basically for every API that we have here, we have no degradation of the product after 12 months under accelerated conditions. That mean high temperature and high humidity. And we have also tested Amorphox in larger molecules, and that's when you come into biologics. As everyone noticed with the Pfizer vaccine from BioNTech, it has to be stored in minus 80 degrees. But that actually is something they share with a lot of different biologics pharmaceuticals, is the issue around drug delivery. How do you deliver the drug in an effective manner, and how do you have a shelf life which is acceptable for the distribution chain? And here we think Amorphox could be the solution for that. Then coming to our digital therapies. So we entered digital therapy because we saw in the opioid use disorder space that one of the main bottlenecks to treatment was the lack of opioid or of counseling services. When we interviewed the physicians, why don't you treat more patients? We know you have a long waiting list. The answer quite often was, I don't have access to good enough counseling services. So we're basically looking for a solution where we at scale could provide counseling services to patients suffering from opioid use disorder. And that led to the development of what later became MODIA. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy that you can access through your phone, laptop, iPad, which should basically either complement or even replace the need for counseling services. If you look at the macro level at digital health, I am absolutely convinced that digital health will become one of the main growth drivers in the life science sector. And the reason for that is that we have a Western world where the gap between supply of healthcare and demand of healthcare is widening. And the only way you can solve this is to find scalable solutions where patients can get access to quality health in an efficient manner, where you don't need more hospitals, more doctors, or more nurses, which would also require a higher tax rate in most countries. So I believe that digital health is going to be an integrated part of healthcare in the future. And we are one of the front runners. There are other companies, but Orexo is definitely out there in the US working to set up this industry. And the most important infrastructure and missing piece at the moment is an effective reimbursement landscape. That's something where we have been a little too optimistic for how fast the payers in the US could start reimbursing this. But we are seeing a lot of progress right now with new legislations, new codes, reimbursement codes coming out just during the last few months. And we see a significant interest, both on a political level, but also on a payer level, to find a solution for how do we put up a reimbursement system that works. It is digital health, and even our solutions, they are disruptive. They are different from how you used to be treated. So of course, there's also a need to change the way that patients are accessing treatment and using treatment. But here we are working effectively with pilot programs, both with the large hospital chains. We have one, Trinity Health, who have been working intimately with Orexo for the last 1.5 years to develop care programs for patients suffering from alcohol misuse and for depression. We're working with a lot of the sub customers right now to test MODIA, which is our solution for opioid use disorder. And we have, I think, right now more than 2,000 patients in different programs which are testing our different solutions. And the 3 programs we have is MODIA for opioid dependence. It's a 6-month treatment, accessible 24/7 using your phone, iPad or similar. We have one for Vorvida, which is for alcohol misuse. That's also 6 months treatment. And we have one for depression, which is a 3 months treatment. All of them are developed together with Gaia, a German company who's been around for 20 years doing these products, and is probably the most advanced digital therapy company in the world. As said, one of the key strategic features for us right now is to create awareness and experience among key opinion leaders, among patients, among physicians, and we have different early access programs, both for Deprexis, for Vorvida, and now also for MODIA, where we're giving access for patients at a very discounted price, or even some of them for free, simply to get feedback, how does it work, and also for the physicians to be comfortable of using this in a real treatment situation. And we are making a lot of progress, in particular in MODIA, where we have all of our networks from Zubsolv, where we're seeing every week we have somewhere around 40 to 50 new patients testing this with new physicians. And the acceptance rate is exceptional, the feedback that we're receiving right now. On the financial sector, so Orexo, as I said, we have our group revenue is 592 million the last 12 months. The majority of that is from Zubsolv. Zubsolv is a fantastic profit contributor with nearly 300 million in EBIT from the US pharma business for the last 12 months. Our EBITDA is negative, and the reason for that is that we have invested a lot in building the infrastructure in Orexo for digital therapy. We have tested different marketing concepts for digital therapy, but even more important is our investments in R&D. So investment in our new AmorphOX platform, 3 different projects, OX124, OX125, and OX640, and building up the manufacturing. We have basically commercial manufacturing ready for all of these products. So we're invested in that during the last year, and we're invested in a trial of 400 patients for MODIA, and that is leading us to the negative EBITDA. If I take away these one-time non-recurring expenses, the company is actually profitable, and we saw that, for example, in the first quarter here, we had a profitable Q1 on EBITDA level. I have to say, to full transparency, that one of the things that we're also spending some money on is that we have a patent litigation for Zubsolv. It has this 30-month stay. That is what you have when you have a new patent litigation, it gets 30-month stay. It's going out in February next year. So we're expecting to have the trial late this year, could even be early next year, but it could very well be late this year. And we have, in 2020, we received a subpoena where we should hand over information about our marketing practice for Zubsolv to the US authorities. Nothing has really happened on the subpoena during the last 2 years, but we haven't had any outcome where they have to set whether we have done something wrong, but they haven't said whether everything looks good either. So these 2 legal risks exist. On the Zubsolv patent litigation, I will say we have been in similar patent litigations previously where we have prevailed on the federal circuit. So our patents have been validated on a federal circuit level, which makes it a very strong case for Orexo. So why should you look at Orexo? Why should you be interested in investing in our company? First of all, we have a very strong foundation. We have a profitable US pharma business where we have an EBIT margin which is north of 50%. We have an organization in place in the US. We have the knowledge about what it takes to commercialize products. I will challenge anyone to look at products similar to Zubsolv to see if they can find anyone who have reached the same kind of market access as we have done. So we have a very, very strong market access team in the US. We have a pharmaceutical pipeline, which this new, very unique technology platform called AmorphOX could open up avenues into biologics, where we're already now talking with different companies to do feasibility studies on their biological APIs. It opens up for new product pipeline opportunities within the Orexo family. And we already have 2 products, OX124 and OX125 and OX640, in pipeline, where we have shown for the 2 first of them that they work in a clinical setting, and we're expecting to get results for OX640 during the summer on our epinephrine product. And then finally, we have digital therapies, a completely new space where Orexo is one of the first movers. We're building that on our networks from Zubsolv and opioid use disorder. So we move into a space close to where we work with our pharmaceuticals, and it provides us with a comprehensive offering, in particular in opioid use disorder, where the best treatment you can do today, everyone agrees, is what they call MAT. It's based on buprenorphine combined with psychological counseling. Today we have buprenorphine in Zubsolv, we have psychological counseling in MODIA, which create a complete offering to our customers in the US. So quite exciting situation for Orexo right now, and something to look forward during the next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, for such a good presentation. And we have time now for a few questions. I would like to start asking you about digital therapeutics, the space. There has been an increasing amount of interest in this space. I mean, there has been like partnerships with big pharma companies. So it's obviously growing, the space. What do you think that it's going to be in the future? What will define? What is the quality stamp that a digital therapy has to have in the future in order to be prescribed and not a competitor, for example?
I think there's one thing that is really missing right now, and that's an effective distribution and reimbursement system, which is aligned across all solutions. Because when we talk to insurance companies, they tell us we like the thinking, we can understand the value that this could bring, but we don't want to develop a unique solution for one company. So we want to see that there's a solution we can apply on all companies. And here we have a situation where different companies have been competing for different solutions, and there's no, can say, universal solution for reimbursement. And I think that is right now the number one bottleneck. And if I listen to my American colleagues in other companies, it's basically the same story all of them talk about. We need to find ways to get this reimbursement system to work, because that is the key to really get paid for what people expect. And that is that we also show clinical evidence that it works. But if you're going to finance a clinical trial, you need to find a way to get it paid. So it's not only the technology development, really the big cost is in the clinical research. And we need to find a way where people want to pay, and the ones to pay it would be the insurance companies. And that kind of infrastructure is not there. So I like to say we have a shiny new train that everyone looking at the train and get to a test ride think this is working well. But for a train really to go anywhere, you need to have some train racks that the train can go on. And right now we're working intensively to put out these racks to ensure we have the infrastructure to secure reimbursement. Yeah, and
as you said, now in the US, this is advancing, and these reimbursement paths are getting more established and more like established. And how does the situation look in Europe, and how do you see this?
So in Europe, it's very country dependent. So you have the most advanced country is Germany, who established a universal reimbursement system called Detta last year, where actually our partner Gaia had out of the first 5 reimbursed products, 4 of them were from Gaia. And there we're seeing that it starts to take off in some categories. So Germany has come a long way. We know that France is looking at a similar system, and so is Spain. So if I look at the 3 most advanced countries in Europe, it's actually Germany, France, and Spain. When you come to countries like Sweden or even the UK, it's much more regionalized. You need to talk to the healthcare providers to convince them to use your product, and they need to find a way to reimburse it through their existing channels. So we don't have this national reimbursement system anywhere else.
Okay, interesting. And my follow-up question is around Modia and Zubsolv. What do you think that one can influence the other one in the future? Do you see possible synergies that the launch of Modia could impact the sales of Zubsolv, or the other way around?
I mean, today, all Modia is promoted in parallel with Zubsolv. So when you look at our cost for Orexo, will highlight that a lot of the selling expense for Modia or for digital therapy, actually more than half of it is from allocated expenses from our Zubsolv field force. So the Zubsolv sales reps are working both with Zubsolv and with Modia. And what we can see is that when they have meetings with Modia, they tend to have much longer meetings with the physicians. And for those clinics where they use Modia, we have much more frequent interaction. And of course, in all of these interactions, we also promote Zubsolv. So this could help us opening the door for more physicians where we haven't been with Zubsolv before and get more quality time. Over time, I think there are opportunities to make different kind of bundle agreements with larger payers in the US, with states or regions, and that could open up completely new avenues. And here in particular, I think Modia is the differentiating factor, because there are a lot of other buprenorphine naloxone products out there. We have seen a market which has become very dominated by generics with a similar clinical profile as Zubsolv, even though we don't have a generic on Zubsolv. But there are other products with a similar profile. Okay. And therefore, Modia is a very differentiating factor.
Okay, interesting. And my last question is, what can investors look for in terms of milestones in the upcoming 12 months?
I think there are quite a few milestones. In Digital Therapies, we have talked a lot about one of our partners, Trinity Health, which is taking a long time, but we do expect the first patients to come in now in Q2. That's our guidance, and I see no reason to change that. We have other discussions with both payers in the US for reimbursement and other caregivers. So I think any of these partnerships is a proof of principle that it would work. Then it will take time to implement before you can see real revenue growth. But to really solve this reimbursement issue is something that I think is a key. And with these partnerships, come with a solution on the reimbursement system also. And Trinity Health, that's really where we've spent our time, is to solve the reimbursement issue. So I think that's where I would keep one eye up. The other one is on our pharma pipeline, where we have this OX640 clinical trial in the summer. And if that one shows what we hope, that we have high bioavailability with OX640, we have a good position to become one of the first, if not the first, nasal alternative to auto-injectors. And again, looking at other areas like naloxone, where you have nasal sprays introduced, where there have been auto-injectors before, the nasal sprays become the dominant choice. And here in Europe, there was one ahead of us, but they just had to withdraw their application. And some of the issues that were identified with that product, called Neffy, is actually not present in our product. It was around some of the excipients in the product that EMA were concerned about, but those excipients are not present in our product, which actually put us now as the front runner in Europe, as the only product who can actually deliver on EMA's expectations. So,
thank you very much, Nikolai,
thank you very much
being here today and for the next presentation.
Thank you for inviting us.
And with this, we finish for today, but we will be back tomorrow morning at 8. Thank you very much.